A few months ago, I was feeling burnt out. I needed time away from my work as a freelance graphic designer, so I rented an old lake house in rural Appalachia. I thought it would help me recharge. I haven't stopped thinking about it since. I arrived just before sunset. The house was small and weathered, but it had a charm. I unpacked my bags and cracked open my laptop. It was quiet. I could hear the soft splashes of water against the shore. Everything felt normal. But as night fell, the vibe changed. Around midnight, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Then I heard it, soft tapping against the window. At first, I thought it was just branches hitting the glass. I rolled over, pulling the blanket tighter around me. Maybe I was just overthinking it. But the tapping continued. I sat up. I turned on the lamp beside my bed. The light flickered for a moment but steadied. I peered through the window. The moonlight illuminated the yard, but I didn't see anything. Shadows moved outside my view. I felt uneasy. I didn't want to admit it, but I was scared. The next day dragged on. I tried to focus on my work, but I kept glancing toward the window. It felt like someone was watching me. In the evening, I decided to take a walk by the lake. The air was cold and I shivered. As I walked, I noticed flickering lights at another cabin. It looked empty, but the lights kept flickering like they were trying to get my attention. I returned to the lake house, and something felt off. The chairs in the living room had been moved. I thought maybe I had done it myself and just forgotten. But doubt crept in. I went out for dinner, trying to push my unease away. But when I came back, a book sat on the table. I didn't remember leaving it there. I picked it up. It was an old, tattered book of local legends. I hesitated before opening it. The pages felt cold to the touch. That second night, the tapping returned. This time it sounded like whispering. I held my breath, straining to listen. I couldn't make out any words, but my heart raced. I thought maybe it was just the wind, but everything about it felt wrong. I peeked out the window again. The lights from nearby cabins had gone out. A chill ran down my spine. I was alone, and something felt very, very wrong. Then one night I heard a voice. It whispered my name soft and low. I turned toward the sound. My heart was pounding. I felt cold, trapped. "Are you lost?" it asked. I looked around. The room was empty. I was alone and completely terrified. I stumbled back, expecting to find someone standing in the shadows, but the only thing that met my eyes was darkness. I wanted to flee. I wanted to leave that place and never look back. But I couldn't. I was stuck in that cabin with the whispers. No one to tell, nobody to believe me. Just me and the darkness. I tried to shake off the fear that night. I forced myself to breathe slowly and remind myself I was safe. But the whispers had burrowed into my mind, and sleep evaded me. I spent the hours tossing and turning, each creak of the old house sending ice through my veins. Morning light finally crept into the room, but it didn't ease my anxiety. I needed a distraction. I grabbed the tattered book from yesterday and settled on the couch. The cover had faded, but it promised stories of local legends. Maybe if I read about someone else's fears, I could forget about mine. As I flipped through the pages, I came across a story that made my heart race. It was about a woman who had once lived in a cabin nearby. They called her the Whispering Woman. The legend said she would call out to wanderers, luring them into the woods, never to return. I shuddered. This was not what I needed. Suddenly there was a loud bang from the kitchen. My heart leaped in my chest. I set the book down and walked towards the sound, each step heavy with dread. Had I really locked the back door last night? The thought made my stomach twist. Peering around the corner, I saw the source of the noise. My coffee maker had crashed to the floor, splattered coffee across the tiles. I scanned the room, but I was still alone. Did I bump into it while I was sleepwalking? I couldn't remember. Worry crept back in. I hurried to clean up, hoping it would ease my nerves. As I knelt to wipe the mess, I noticed something glinting beneath the table. I reached for it and pulled out a small brass key. I didn't recognize it. Where had it come from? My mind raced. The previous tenant, or maybe it belonged to the whispering woman. I stared down at it, my instinct screaming for me to leave it be. But curiosity was stronger than fear. I pocketed the key, convinced it had to unlock something important. That evening, I decided to return to the lakeside. I needed to clear my head. Perhaps the scenery would provide some peace. As I walked along the shore, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being observed. The woods felt alive, the air still and tense. As I paused, I heard it again, a soft whisper echoing my name. I turned around and my heart dropped. There, standing at the edge of the trees, was a woman. But there was something wrong. Her figure was translucent, flickering in the twilight. She appeared to be looking directly at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Help me," she whispered. Fury and fear clashed inside me. I wanted to run, but something held me in place. There was an allure, a desperate need to understand. Before I could decide what to do, she turned and vanished between the trees. I stood there frozen. I had to know what it all meant. I needed to find that cabin and confront whatever was lurking in the woods. I walked back to the lake house, clutching the brass key tightly in my pocket. I didn't know who she was, but I was sure she held the answers I sought, and I was determined to uncover the truth no matter what it cost me. The next day, I set out to find the cabin. I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. The woman's whisper echoed in my thoughts, pushing me forward. I grabbed my backpack, filled it with essentials, and left the house before I could second-guess myself. Following a narrow path through the woods, I felt the surroundings close in around me. The tall trees cast long shadows, making the trail seem darker even in daylight. I felt nauseous with each step, but I pressed on. I couldn't turn back now. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood the cabin, the walls weathered and covered in creeping vines. It looked like a page torn from an old fairy tale, but I knew better. Legends had a way of trapping you in a nightmare. I stepped closer, the brass key heavy in my pocket. The door hung slightly ajar, almost inviting me in. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open. The door creaked ominously, and I hesitated on the threshold. The air inside was stale, dust swirling in the beams of light cutting through the windows. Every inch of the cabin reeked of abandonment. I took a timid step inside, the wooden floor groaning under my weight. My heart raced as I explored each room, looking for something, anything that would provide answers. Faded photographs lined one wall, portraits of people I couldn't recognize, their eyes seeming to follow me. Then I spotted something glinting on the mantel above an old, broken fireplace. I moved closer and found a small mirror, its surface murky but intact. As I cleaned it with my sleeve, my reflection whispered back, the voice a chilling echo of the woman from the lake. "Find me." Staring at myself in the dim light, I felt a shiver grip me. My own image started to fade, replaced by a flicker of the woman, her pleading gaze piercing through me. Panic surged. Was she trapped in here? Or was I simply losing my mind? I stumbled back, my foot catching on something hard. I looked down and saw a trapdoor partially concealed beneath the dust and debris. It looked old, but the handle was still in good shape. I grasped it, hesitating only for a moment. What if I opened it and got pulled into something I couldn't escape? Compelled by curiosity, I yanked it open. The hinges protested loudly, and a musty odor wafted from below. I peered into the darkness, but I couldn't see anything. Then a soft rustle echoed up from the depths. My breath caught in my throat. Was someone down there? I backed away, weighed down by conflicting emotions. I had come seeking answers, but now I felt like I was on the edge of a precipice. Just then, the whisper returned, clearer than before. It seeped into my mind, echoing, "Help me, please." Desperation kicked in, and I took a step forward, torn between fear and the overwhelming need to save whoever was calling out. But before I could decide, I heard a sharp noise behind me, a scraping sound against the walls. I whipped around, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. That's when I saw it. A shadow darting through the trees outside, just beyond the cabin's grimy windows. My pulse quickened. I wasn't alone, and whatever it was didn't seem friendly. I froze, the key slipping through my fingers and clattering to the floor with a heavy thud. I needed to leave, but the whispers pulled me in deeper. The cabin had become a cage, and I felt the presence of something dark closing in. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I was already trapped in the web of local legends. With dread gnawing at me, I turned back to the trapdoor. If I was going to uncover the truth, I had to face whatever lay below. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself and bent down to see what was waiting in the shadows. As I leaned closer to the trapdoor, the air thickened with dread. A cold draft swept up from the darkness below, brushing my skin like an icy hand. I hesitated, glancing back toward the windows where the shadows lurked, waiting. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was outside might not be as benign as my overactive imagination wanted me to believe. I gulped down my fear and reached for the edge of the trapdoor, pushing it further open. The opening widened, exposing a staircase that spiraled down into a pitch-black abyss. No sounds came up from below, just that unsettling silence. I felt a pit form in my stomach. What if there was something down there waiting, playing with me like a cat with a mouse? "Help me," the whisper echoed again, clear enough to send a shiver down my spine. The cadence was desperate, and something about it rooted me in place. I couldn't turn back now, not when someone, or something, was pleading for help. With trembling hands, I grabbed the flashlight from my backpack. I flicked it on and aimed its beam into the void. The light illuminated the first few steps, revealing dust and cobwebs, the remnants of time forgotten. I could feel the staircase calling me, urging me to descend. I took a cautious step down, the wood groaning under my weight. Each step felt like a test of my courage. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, half expecting the darkness to leap out at me. My heart raced, and I cursed myself for coming here. I was wrapped in fear, but there was something else, an inexplicable urge to uncover the truth. I reached the bottom and stepped into a small room. The beam of my flashlight danced across the walls, revealing dampness and a low ceiling that felt like it was closing in on me. In one corner sat an old trunk, its lock rusted and peeling. Could this be what I was looking for? But as I approached, a soft scuttling sound caught my ear. I froze, casting my light towards the source. There, in the far corner, was a rat, its beady eyes watching me before it darted away. My breath hitched. I was alone, but not truly alone. Swallowing hard, I turned my attention back to the trunk. I knelt down and tugged at the lid, but it wouldn't budge. Desperation and determination gripped me. I could still hear her voice. "Find me." I fumbled through my pockets for the brass key, hoping it would fit the lock. My fingers trembled as I slid it into the rusted hole and twisted. It clicked, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. I tugged again, and the lid creaked open. Inside lay a collection of old photographs and yellowed papers. My pulse quickened as I sifted through them, searching for any clues. But then I found something that made my skin crawl, a tarnished locket, still warm from the absence of light. That's when I heard it again. A scraping noise, louder this time. I whipped around just as the trapdoor began to close on its own, the creeping darkness above swallowing the light. Panic surged. I wasn't alone anymore. Whatever had been lurking was now making its move. My grip tightened on the locket as I spun back to the trunk, my thoughts racing. I had to know. I couldn't just leave it like this. But the shadows around me thickened, and I felt the pressure of impending doom closing in. As the last rays of light blinked out, I was thrust into shadow, the whispers growing louder with every second. I realized swiftly, it wasn't just about finding answers anymore. It was about survival. My heart raced in the pitch black, the air around me heavy with tension. I clutched the locket tight, its edges biting into my palm. The whispers melded into a cacophony, a dissonant choir rising and falling. "Help me," I heard distinctly, mixed in with more indistinguishable murmurs. Each word sent chills down my spine. I needed to think, to act. The trapdoor was closing. It was almost fully shut. I stumbled back toward the trunk, fumbling around for anything useful. My hands brushed against the remnants of dust and decay. I swept the flashlight beam along the floor, desperate for an escape route. But the shadows enveloped me fiercely, swallowing the light like a hungry beast. Then I spotted something. In the corner of the room behind the trunk was a shadowy outline. I focused the flashlight on it. My breath caught. It looked like a figure, hunched over, almost human but indistinct, like a forgotten statue draped in darkness. A wave of uncertainty washed over me. Was it just a trick of the light? My heart thundered in my ears. "Find me," it echoed again. But this time the voice was not just in my head. This voice wrapped around me, irritating and hollow. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but the weight of the locket in my hand reminded me of my purpose. I wasn't just here by chance. I took a step closer to the trunk, lifting the beam higher. The figure was gone, leaving the corner dark and empty. I felt a rush of air, chilling as it brushed against my neck, a stinging reminder of my vulnerability. Was I really alone? I turned back to the trunk, heart racing. Digging through the papers inside, I found a brittle envelope sealed tight. Without thinking, I ripped it open. Inside were more photographs, faces staring back at me out of the past. Some were hauntingly familiar. They bore a striking resemblance to the woman I'd heard. I shivered as I recognized a face. It was a match to the locket I held. My mind raced. Who was she? Had she been trapped here like me? Suddenly the scraping sound came again, this time closer, reverberating off the walls. I dropped the envelope as I wheeled around once again, flashing the light into the refuge of the shadows. And then I saw them, glowing eyes watching me from the gloom about 10 feet away. I gasped, stumbling backward, the flashlight beam flickering. There were more than one. Shapes began to break free of the shadows, figures closing in, shifting unnaturally, too fast for comfort. Panic surged within me. "No, I need to get out." I skidded toward the trapdoor, my pulse hammering against my ribs. But it was fully closed now, sealing my exit. I was trapped. As the figures advanced, I felt the walls closing in, the air thickening. I gripped the locket tight and shouted, "What do you want?" Then everything shifted, and they stopped. The air crackled as if it held its breath. The leading figure tilted its head, and a voice emerged, deep and hollow. "We need you to help us." I didn't know what to think. But whatever it was, I was in deeper than ever. Now it wasn't just about me anymore. I had to make a choice. And then the trapdoor creaked open just a bit. Hope sparked. But I knew I wasn't safe yet. The trapdoor didn't open wide enough for me to escape, but the sliver of light illuminated the edges of the room. I inhaled sharply, fear mixing with curiosity. The figures paused, their glowing eyes fixated on me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. What did they want, really? "Help us," the voice repeated, echoing through me like a low drum. As I swallowed hard, I could feel the locket in my hand warm up, pulsing lightly as if in agreement. What did that mean? It felt like it was alive, tethering me to the strange beings before me. I took a cautious step forward, driven by an urge I couldn't fully comprehend. "Help you how?" My voice trembled, but I forced it out. The weight of their gaze didn't waver. The figures began to shift, a flicker of movement. Reclaim what was taken, the voice whispered, resonating from the one who seemed to stand slightly taller than the others. You hold the key. The key. I gritted my teeth, grappling with a mix of defiance and trepidation. I don't even know who you are. How can I help you? The taller figure moved closer, an unearthly grace to its movement. You are of our blood, it said, though the words seemed twisted, like they were spoken through constraints. That locket binds you to us. I stumbled back, the reality hitting me hard. My family history had been a haze, obscured by years of silence. My mother's stories felt distant, like shadows of another time. But now, the locket thrumming in my palm connected me to something sinister. It was a legacy I had never wanted to uncover. Why me? Because the others were lost, it replied, its tone dark and gravelly. But you can bring us back. As the words settled in the air, the weight of their desperation struck me. I understood. These spirits, caught somewhere between realms, believed I could help them find peace. With each second, the trapdoor opened a fraction wider, light spilling into the oppressive darkness. I can't do this, I stammered. I'm nobody. Access the memories, the figure hinted. The answers are within. A sudden flicker of recognition hit me, a small flash of a name, Caroline. It was whispered through my mother's voice. Fear gripped at my throat. Was she one of the lost? Had she been trapped here too? In that moment, a bright light burst from the locket, illuminating the entire room. The figures recoiled, and screeches echoed as shadows danced around me frantically. Hold it, I shouted, my instincts flaring. The light felt warm, alive, and I fought against the encroaching darkness. What was happening? But before I could process it, the figures began to scream, their sounds filled with sorrow and rage. You must choose! The leading figure roared, and the trapdoor trembled violently beneath my feet. I didn't know what I was choosing, but one thought screamed louder than the rest. I had to get out. I turned and furiously shoved against the trapdoor, desperation fueling my every motion. Suddenly, everything went dark. The darkness felt thick, like a heavy blanket pressing down on me. My heart raced as I struggled to regain my bearings. I couldn't tell if my eyes were open or shut. I reached out, but my hand met only emptiness. Then light pierced through, blinding me momentarily. I blinked rapidly, adjusting to the brightness. I was outside, standing at the edge of a lake. The water was eerily still, mirroring the vibrant hues of the setting sun overhead. But something was wrong. A chill swept through the air, raising the hairs on my arms. I spun around, taking in my surroundings. The majestic trees stood tall like sentinels, and the silence was suffocating. No birds chirping, no rustling leaves, just an unsettling stillness. And there, by the water, a figure was crouched down, their back facing me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure didn't move. I took a tentative step forward. "Are you okay?" Slowly the figure turned. My breath caught in my throat. It was a girl, her face pale and sunken, eyes wide with despair. Her lips barely twitched as she whispered, "You shouldn't be here." "Why not?" I pressed, dread curling in my stomach. Her expression faltered, and she glanced over her shoulder as if something lingered behind her. "They are watching," she said, an edge of panic rimming her voice. "You must leave before it's too late." "Who's watching?" I asked, glancing around, my instincts flaring. I could feel something lurking in the shadows. Suddenly a ripple in the water caught my attention. I turned back to the girl, but she was gone, leaving only the echo of her warning in the air. My heart dropped. I was alone. Again. The tranquility of the lake dissolved into unease as I approached the water's edge. I squinted into the depths. Was there something moving beneath the surface? A dark shape loomed, shifting just out of view. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn closer, as if the water was calling me. I stepped back, breathing heavily. Just when I thought I was becoming unmoored, the locket in my pocket began to radiate warmth, as if it recognized danger. Slowly I pulled it out, the glow illuminating my trembling hand. "Caroline," I whispered, recalling the name from before. Was she connected to the girl? My pulse quickened. I had to figure this out. Before I could contemplate my next move, a low growl emerged from the tree line. Something was coming. The air thickened with tension. I could feel their presence. It was as if the trees themselves were watching, waiting for a misstep. Then the growl morphed into a haunting wail. I turned, and there in the shadows emerged a figure, tall, shadowy, and monstrous. My instincts kicked in. I had to run. As I sprinted away from the lake, one thought blazed in my mind. I couldn't let them trap me too. But as I plunged deeper into the nearby woods, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't the only one trying to escape. Then everything went still again. Silence wrapped around me and I froze, realizing something was behind me. A voice, cold and familiar, whispered, "You've come to help us." I whipped around, heart pounding, scanning the trees for the source of the voice. "Who are you?" I shouted. My voice echoed into the dense woods, swallowed by the silence. My breath came out in quick bursts as I fought to stay calm. "Help us," the voice insisted, closer now. I stumbled back, my pulse racing. I could feel the locket's warmth pressing into my palm, urging me forward. The memory of the girl lingered in my mind. Was she in trouble too? Then shadows shifted among the trees. A shape flitted just out of my sight. I squinted, trying to catch a glimpse, but all I saw were dark silhouettes dancing in the dim light. Fear tightened my chest, but I needed to know more. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the sound. "Please, just tell me what you want," I called out, hoping for an answer, or maybe just a sign that I wasn't alone. Deep inside, a part of me wished I could disappear into the woods, away from whatever was lurking out there. A figure emerged from the gloom. It was a boy, his face as gaunt and hollow as the girl's. He looked as lost as I felt. "You don't belong here," he said, voice trembling. "They'll come for you next." "Who are they?" I pressed, confusion mixing with fear. I needed clarity in this madness, but his eyes darted around, a look of terror plastered on his face. "You have to leave," he echoed the girl's warning. "What are you running from?" I asked, pulling the locket from my pocket again. The glow pulsed softly as if sensing our shared distress. "Wait, do you know Caroline?" He flinched at the name, the color draining from his face. "Caroline, she's a part of them now. You have to go while you still can." Part of what? Panic surged within me, connections tangled in my brain. What was happening here? I needed answers. Before he could respond, a low rumble rippled through the woods. The shadows flickered, growing darker and more oppressive. My instincts screamed. I needed to get out. "Come with me." I reached out to him, but he stepped back, shaking his head. "I can't. No one can help us." Suddenly, branches snapped behind me. I turned, just as the tall figure from before broke through the tree line, moving swiftly with a menacing grace. My heart dropped as I realized the boy would be trapped if he stayed. "Run!" I yelled, but he remained paralyzed by fear. I had to make a choice. Either I fled alone or I tried to pull him with me. Understanding flooded over me, bringing a surprising clarity. "They're not just watching, are they? They're hunting." The boy nodded slowly, eyes widening in realization. "You have to leave now. They find us for what we wish we could forget." "Forget what?" I shouted, feeling desperation claw at me. But the ground trembled beneath my feet, and the monstrous figure grew closer. Knowing I had little time, I made my decision. "I can't leave you." I grabbed his wrist, trying to drag him with me. His resistance hit me like a wall. "I can't go back. You don't understand. They will." Then I felt it. A cold hand gripped my shoulder from behind. I didn't need to look to know. My instincts screamed for me to run, but could I leave him? That's when I saw it. A dark, sinuous shape slithering closer, its eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger. The boy's scream pierced the air as I felt myself pulled away. The woods swallowed him whole, his expression frozen in terror as the shadows consumed him. I wrenched free, heart racing, and sprinted toward the trees, but the whispers followed, echoing through my mind. I needed to find a way to escape this nightmare or risk becoming one of them. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud as I ran, branches clawing at my clothes, the whispers growing louder in my ears. Panic surged through my veins. I had to get away, but where was I headed? Every direction felt like a trap. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my breath burning in my throat. My heart thudded against my ribs, each beat echoing the boy's warning. "They'll come for you next." Images of his terrified face replayed in my mind. I couldn't shake the weight of guilt pressing down on me. Did I really leave him behind? A cold gust of wind whipped through the trees, causing them to groan like ancient giants. In the chaos of my thoughts, I didn't notice the clearing ahead until I stumbled into it. The moonlight broke through the canopy, illuminating a small, abandoned cabin. The windows were shattered, and the door hung on its hinges, creaking ominously. Should I go inside? I hesitated, glancing back toward where I had come from. The shadows shifted again, as if aware of my indecision. I bit my lip and stepped into the clearing. Somehow this cabin felt significant, like it might be the key to understanding what they were and why they were hunting. I stepped tentatively onto the porch, the boards groaning under my weight. The door swung open at my touch, revealing a dark interior. I could hear the wind whistling through the gaps in the walls. With a shaky breath, I crossed the threshold, the glow of the locket guiding me. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay. Faded photographs hung askew on the walls, faces I didn't recognize staring down at me. I felt a chill creep up my spine as recognition sparked. They looked like Caroline. The same haunted expression stared back at me from the frames. "What is this place?" I whispered to myself, inching further into the darkness. A series of old wooden tables and chairs lined the walls, some overturned as if left in a hurry. My heart skipped a beat when I saw something glimmering on one of the tables. I stepped closer, the locket pulsing in my pocket. It seemed to resonate with the air, drawing me in. On the table lay a small, tarnished key and a faded journal. I grasped the key, tucking it into my pocket before flipping the journal open. What I read made my blood run cold. "We are not alone. The darkness watches, consuming those who dare to remember." The entry was dated years ago, and as I turned the pages, the words blurred together. Every entry detailed encounters, people drawn into the woods, swallowed by their shadows, leaving behind only echoes. Suddenly, a loud crash jolted me from my reading. My heart raced as the noise came from outside. I dropped the journal and rushed to the door, peering out into the darkness. The air thickened, as if warning me to retreat, but before I could think, a figure burst into view. It stood tall and menacing, the same shape from before, illuminated by the moon's glow. The horror of its twisted features sent a surge of dread through me. It had come for me. My instincts kicked in. I had to escape, to find that boy's courage buried beneath my own fear. With the key clutched tightly in my hand, I darted back inside, searching for a way out, my mind racing. "Where are you, Caroline?" I murmured, the memory of the girl returning. The answer was close, I could feel it. I had to confront whatever awaited me outside. But first, I needed to discover the secrets hidden in this dark cabin. I scrambled back inside as the towering shadow loomed in the doorway, its presence suffocating and ominous. I could feel the weight of its gaze burning into my back, urging me to flee again. but I couldn't run. This cabin, the air thick with memories, might hold the answers to what I had witnessed and how to escape this nightmare gripping me. I choked down the rising panic, scanning the dim room, searching for something, anything that could help. The locket hung heavily in my pocket, pulsing softly as if echoing the urgency thrumming in my veins. As my eyes darted across the walls, a simple thought struck me. I needed to unlock whatever lay ahead. My hands trembled as I reached for the tarnished key I had found. I had seen locked doors in strange places before. Perhaps there was something hidden within this cabin that could guide my next move. I stumbled through the darkness towards the room at the back, my heart pounding as I fumbled around the risk of being caught. At the end of the small corridor I found a door, worn but distinct from the others. My breath hitched as I inserted the key into the rusty lock. It clicked, and a wave of adrenaline surged through me. I swung the door open with scarcely a moment to think. The small space within was dim and musty, but my flashlight revealed a collection of abandoned furniture and treacherous dust. What caught my eye was an old mirror leaning against the wall, its surface cracked and tarnished. I took a step closer. In its gloom I saw a flicker, a shadow skimming behind me, but when I turned, nothing was there. "Caroline," I whispered, unsure of how loud my voice could go. The moment I questioned if I was losing my grip, the locket vibrated as if urging me to reach deeper. I stepped closer to the mirror, wiping the grime with my sleeve, revealing a clearer surface. Then the whisper returned, swirling around me like the very darkness I feared. "Help me!" It echoed, but this time it didn't come from the shadows. It was from within the mirror. A pale face materialized, framed by dark hair, reflecting the girl I had seen by the lake. With a jolt, I understood. Caroline was trapped within this mirror. Before I could process that horrifying reality, the door creaked behind me, swinging shut with alarming haste. The room darkened as shadows pooled in corners, sealing me within. I froze, dread pooling in my stomach. The tall figure was no longer outside. It was here, poised to claim me. "No!" I shouted, racing to the mirror. I pressed my palms against its cold surface, desperate to reach Caroline. "I can help you. I can help both of us." The reflection rippled, a faint sense of recognition flickering in her eyes. "You hold the key," she murmured, but I wasn't sure if it was to my escape or hers. Then the darkness surged, a malevolence wrapping around me like vines, squeezing the breath from my lungs. The figure emerged, hissing and clicking from the shadows. "You're ours," it hissed, pale and stretched and nightmarish. Terrified, I knew there was no more time. I frantically searched for the locket in my pocket, feeling its warm pulse beat against my fingertips. I had to make a decision between escaping back into the eerie woods or confronting what had been awakened. With a flash of determination, I turned to the mirror once more. "Find her," I shouted to the reflection. "I will help you. Together we can break this." The air thickened around me, and I held the locket high as a shield against the corruption closing in. The moment I formed that connection, something shifted. Light flickered from the locket, illuminating the room with a ghostly glow that momentarily staved off the darkness. Caroline's face reflected back, her expression turning into a fierce resolve. "You cannot hold us forever," she said, and I felt the pulses of energy bonding us. The shadows recoiled momentarily, but I sensed there was still a battle to be waged. "I'm with you," I declared, contemplating all the lost souls trapped within these shadows. "Let's do this." I closed my eyes, summoning every ounce of strength I had, joining our spirits. The light from the locket intensified, pushing against the enveloping dark. Then, with a resounding crash, the mirror shattered, sending shards scattering across the room, and in that moment, I felt the energy shift. The figures wailed, their anguished cries echoing through the air. I opened my eyes to see a swirling vortex forming in the center of the dark spaces, light erupting from the shards of glass. Caroline reached out, and I could feel her presence inching closer to freedom, pulling every spirit towards the light. The malevolent figure howled, its form disintegrating as the light enveloped it. I stumbled back, the warmth of the locket engulfing me like a protective cocoon. In a blinding flash, the room exploded with light. I shielded my eyes and braced myself for the upheaval. And then, with an abrupt end to the chaos, I found myself standing again at the edge of the lake under a star-strewn sky. The air was cool and serene, the whispers stilled. I glanced back toward the abandoned cabin. It was still there, but the weight of its darkness had dissipated. Part of me felt a bitter sadness mixed with clarity. Caroline was free, along with countless others, yet the last echoes left me with haunting questions. Had my actions sealed their fate, or had I simply set them free? I turned away from the lake, realization dawning as the locket's dull warmth remained in my hand. Though I had escaped the shadows, what I had learned would linger, a slice of history that would forever alter my understanding of the world. The path ahead echoed with uncertainty, but I stepped away from the darkened cabin, no longer afraid but uncertain of what came next. I guess some mysteries were meant to stay just that, mysteries,